Welcome back to my channel. I'm Lynette, Nettie Reads Too Much, and I am coming to you today, I've just dropped my notes on the floor, sorry. I'm coming to you today with my August wrap-up. I managed to read 7 books this month and finished 2 audiobooks. Not all of the books that I've read this month were starts and finishes. Some of them were books that I'd picked up partway through, because I'd started them a while ago and put them down and then come back to them, and you get the idea. So without further ado, here are the books. The very first book that I read this month was Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. That's the cover. This was originally titled Cross Stitch, and is her Outlander series. It's about Claire, who is, the book starts in the 1940s with Claire, who is on a second honeymoon with her husband Frank in Scotland, and she visits some standing stones which are called Craig na Dun, and while she's there she hears a buzzing noise, touches one of the stones and is transported back to the 1700s. Roughly 200 years, I think it's 202 years back. And from there she meets a man who looks like her husband. She thinks it's her husband to start with, she's quite confused, but it turns out to not be her husband, it's one of his ancestors who's not a very nice man. And she's rescued by the Mackenzie clan, and specifically Jamie Fraser. This is Jamie and Claire's story in the main, back in the 1700s, and how Claire and Jamie come together and fall in love. I picked up this book a few years ago. I started it and wasn't getting on with it. I read about a quarter of it. I wasn't doing very well with it, but I didn't have the heart to put it down and say I'm not going to read any more of this. So I put it down, read some other things with the full intention of coming back to it, and I didn't until the TV series came out, and then I attempted it again, only managed a few more pages, put it down again. Picked it up earlier this year because I was talking to someone who has read them and they were quite insistent, you need to get on and read it. And I read another quarter, I got about halfway through, put it down again, and then discovered the channel Thoughts on Tomes here on BookTube. Sam was talking about a readathon called Tome Topple, where you aim to read books that are 500 pages or more. And I thought this book was perfect for that. It's roughly 800 pages, so well and truly fit the criteria of 500 page plus book. And I thought, no, I'm gonna finish it. So I used that as an excuse. When I picked it up, I had got to the point where Jamie and Claire had started a relationship and were starting to realise there was more. It wasn't just because initially it's just an arrangement. But they start to realise there are feelings there for them, but the things that are going to cause them distress really start to happen in that section of book. So I think because I knew that was happening because of the TV show and I knew where the story was going, that helped me get through it, and I managed to finish this book in the first week of Tome Topple, and thoroughly enjoyed it. However, I don't think, at the moment, I'm not going to continue with the series. They are quite slow going, and I found that a hard read because it's very descriptive, and I think that's why I enjoyed the TV show so much for these rather than the books. Is although I like to have things described to me because I like to have an idea of where things are and what's happening, sometimes it can be a little bit, I don't know how to describe it, but for me it just didn't work so well. Even though I enjoyed their story, it didn't work. The descriptive part of the story didn't work quite so well for me. So at the moment, the series is on the back burner. I am continuing with the TV series because, like I say, I really enjoy it, and because I've watched the TV series and a friend of mine has watched, has read the books. We've been talking about them, and we've been talking about. I'll talk to her about the episodes, and she talks to me about what she remembers of the book, and it does seem like they actually are quite following the actual books very, very well. I'm just hoping that we don't get to a stage like they have with Game of Thrones, where they get to a point where they've finished filming all the books, with no real idea of where it's going to go next. So I just hope we can finish. She finishes the story before they finish filming the TV series. So that was book 1. Book 2, again, I was in Tome Topple. I had another 500 page plus book. Again, this one I think was then 700 to 800 pages. And it's The Skull Thrown by Peter V. Brett. There is the cover on that one. Not quite as easy to see. This is his 4th book in his Demon Cycle series. All I can really say is that the world that they live in, they're at night, demons come up from the center of the earth, or the core as he calls it in his book, and they kill and eat humans. And so by night, before dusk falls, all humans have to be inside their houses, and there are certain magical wards that they have painted on their houses, doors, walls, barns, all their buildings, and the cities have them on the city walls and what have you, to stop the demons from getting in. But yes, so by night they retreat behind their warded walls, warded doors, to stay safe from the demons. In the 2nd book, we meet another group of humans, and they then end up, because they're supposed to be the saviour. You meet him in book 1, but then in book 2 we meet a second possible saviour, and then there's conflict. So by night they're battling the demons, by day they're battling each other. That's pretty much all I can go into. I'm enjoying the series. Book 5 is due out on the 3rd of October, and I'm hoping this is going to be the final book. I'm getting to the stage now where book 3 and 4 are fillers. I think some of what's happening in these books, I don't understand the necessity of it. It's whole other stories. It's just it feels like it's just a way to extend the story, get more books out. It was supposed to be a trilogy originally. It was supposed to be a trilogy originally, and he's extended it by 2 books. They're fillers. They are fillers. I'm hoping that book 5 will be the final book, and we get the final big fight with the saviors and the demon, the head demons, and that it all comes to an end. I am going to read the core when it comes out. It's called The Core, the 5th book, and I'm going to try and read it when it comes out. But yes, for me it's a storyline that needs to be over and done with. I really enjoyed the first 2 books. I just think it's being dragged out now. So then after that, Tome Topple was over and done with. When Tome Topple finished, the day Tome Topple finished, I actually had a brand new book released that I'd been looking forward to, and that was Royally Endowed by Emma Chase. This is the 3rd book in her Royally series. I'll just find the cover for you. Nice little hunk of man there on the front cover. Do appreciate a nice man to look at. Yes, and the first book in the series followed Olivia and Prince Nicholas, and the second book followed Prince Nicholas' brother Prince Henry and his lady love Lady Sarah, and third book then goes back to Olivia's family and goes back to the story of Ellie, who starts out, I think she's 17 or 18 when the book starts, and her bodyguard, or one of her bodyguards, Logan St. James, I think she must be 17 because the beginning of the book, Ellie is spoken about as being underage. So Logan, although there's an attraction there between them, Logan won't go near her. And it's a book that spans about 5 years, and it's done really well. The lapses in time are explained to you. Little things are wrapped up quite neatly for the time span you're in, but they're all things that add up to their story, and how Logan comes to the realization that he's in love with her. Ellie has obviously had a crush on him since she was in her teens, and it's just how, and it's just a really, it was an easy read. It wasn't wasn't a difficult read, but it was thoroughly enjoyable. Really loved this book. It had me in tears when they came together because of how it happens. There's a little bit of there is some danger there, obviously with Logan being a bodyguard, and yeah, I think it was done really well, and the conflicts that would have kept them apart were handled really well. They weren't thrown in to extend the story. They flowed quite nicely. They were the issues that Logan had were all ones that would be quite natural, and you would expect those sort of feelings to happen. So it was done really well. Really enjoyed it, and I hope that there'll be more. There was a second bodyguard of Ellie's that I can't remember his name right now. I think it might have been Thomas, but I'd love to see him get a story. So yes, it was really good, and it was nice to see glimpses of the previous two couples. You don't necessarily need to read these books in the series. You can read them as individuals, but it would be nice just to see how Olivia and Nicholas, especially Olivia and Nicholas, because part of their story is in this book as well. And Prince Henry and Sarah are in this book as well as part of their story because of the time span that this book covers. So yes, if you want a great romance read, do recommend the Royally series by Emma Chase. And I'm now very tempted to try her other series, which have been hanging around my TBR for a while. So, initially, at the beginning of August, I didn't start, because Tome Topple didn't start until the 4th, and I'd actually finished my last read of July on the 31st, so I decided to pick up Heartless by Marissa Meyer on the 1st of August. I hadn't finished it by the time Tome Topple started, so I did put that down. But then once I'd read Royally Endowed, I then went back to Heartless. And this is a contender for the best book of the year for me so far. This is a standout book. I absolutely loved this book. I haven't read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland for many years. I read it when I was a child. I was gifted a copy by one of my aunts, and I absolutely adored it. Again, I'll just show you the cover for this one. I much prefer the original covers that came with this one, but this one is equally as nice, so I'll just pull that one up for you now. There you go. Yes, so this is the tale, for those who don't know, this is the tale of how the Queen of Hearts in Wonderland became the Queen of Hearts. It's not just her story though. There are lots of other characters that you recognise from the Queen of Hearts, from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, who have their own backstory in this as well, and I just absolutely adored it. I was just going through and going, the Mad Hatter, the Mock Turtle, the White Rabbit, the playing cards, and I feel this is a very loving, very fitting tribute to the work of Lewis Carroll. And I absolutely adore it. If you love fairy tale retellings, if you love, because there's a little bit of romance in this as well, if you love romance novels, if you love Lewis Carroll, if you love Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, read this book. You will not be disappointed. She has taken the elements of the world that he constructed, and made a story from it, and it's just fantastic. I don't think it takes away from his story at all, and I think if yes, I absolutely think this is a brilliant book, so I highly recommend you read this one. Again, best book of the year so far. So yes, so the reason I picked that one up is because Lauren at Lauren and the Books hosts cozy reading nights every couple of months, and she had her summer cozy reading night the weekend that Tome Topple finished. So I thought, right, I'm going to pick that one up. I've got a solid 3 hours where I'm sitting and reading, so I picked that one up and I finished that one in 3 hours. I needed something else to read during those 3 hours, so I picked up a book that has been beside my bed for quite a while, and that's this one, Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. When I picked it up, I was about 100 and something pages in. I managed to read another 100 and something pages of that, so that's what I've done, that's what I've got left. I'm only giving it an honourable mention because I didn't finish it, but yes, I've read that one, managed to get another 100 pages of that one done, and finish. And yes, I aim to finish that one in September. So from there, that was a Saturday night. On the Sunday, I didn't really have a lot of time to read. I had housework to do. I took a fit in my head. There were things that needed doing and sorting in my house because they would bring me. So I put on audiobooks while I was doing that. I won't put them up because I can't get the covers up properly. The first one that I finished, I'd been listening to it for a little while because I listen to books on my commute to work, and it's only a 20-minute commute there and 20 minutes back, so it takes a while for me to listen to a book. And the first one was Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. I don't need to tell you the synopsis of this. We all know what it's about. It's girl meets and falls in love with vampire. There's danger. He rescues her. I have to say, listening to the audiobook has made me appreciate the books a bit more. I'd become a bit I can't think of the word, but I'd read the books when I was in my early 30s, and I enjoyed them, and then the films came out and I took a dislike to them, and I judged a book by its film. I just don't think that the book's translated well to film. I think there's a passing of time that isn't done very well in the books. But they're not badly written books. Yes, I know people have issues with the romance and the way it's dealt with, but actually some of those issues, yes, excluding everyone in your life for the sake of a boy is not healthy. But I don't think, some people have said that he made her do that. I don't get that at all. So yes, I know the book's problematic, but they're not bad reads. So listening to it, I actually quite enjoyed it. And I finished the last couple of hours while I was doing my housework. I still had more housework to do, so I put on another short audiobook, and that was Messenger's Legacy by Peter V. Brett. This was book 3.5 in the Demon Cycle. There's a character called Briar in the Skull Throne who comes up, and this book, Messenger's Legacy, just gives you his backstory basically. I won't go into any more than that because again it's a little bit of a spoiler. So after that, on the Monday, I needed something to read in my lunch break, and I picked up Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Not on my TBR for the year, but it is on my list of series I'm trying to finish. I've read them all before. We all know what Harry Potter's about. If we haven't read the books, we've seen the films, so I'm not going to go into it. But book 7, this is book 6 rather. we all know what happens at the end of book 6. I struggle with this. I was Thursday, Wednesday lunchtime, I was sat in work reading the end of this book and trying not to cry. For me, it's not the bad thing that happens at the end of the book, it's the emotions that come after it that get to me. That it's his emotions that tug on my heartstrings. So that's, yeah. Oh, I need to show you the cover as well. That might help. So that's the covers that I've got for my Harry Potter. So yeah, so that took me through. I finished that one Wednesday lunchtime, early Wednesday evening. Yeah, must have been Wednesday evening. Wednesday night, overnight, I wasn't very well. I was struggling to sleep. So I went into my randomizer app, got my 2017 TBR list up and selected another book. And the one that came up was Tall, Tatted and Tempting by Tammy Faulkner. Okay, that's the cover on that one. As you can see, it's a Reed Brothers novel. In fact, it's actually Reed Brothers #1. It's a romance novel, and it follows Kit and another Logan. Kit is a 19-year-old runaway girl from home. She's run away from her home. She's dyslexic, and she walks into the tattoo parlor where Logan works. Logan's deaf, so he can't hear her, and although he's warned that she's a bit standoffish, he does something to upset her and she runs off, leaves a tattoo behind, and then he goes to find her. And obviously then it turns out then that he's actually only been fully deaf for 8 years. So he can speak. So because he realises she's dyslexic, he uses his voice for the first time in 8 years. This is the story of how they come together. It's an insta-love story, so if you don't like insta-love, it's not done too badly. There is a little bit of progression in their romance, so it's not, you know, wham bam, thank you ma'am, we're together now. There is progression in the relationship. It's not a fully HEA at the end of this, but it's not a cliffhanger either. I probably will read the second one at some point just to get the full conclusion on their story, but it's not a right now. I am on a book buying ban, so I can't actually pick it up. It's not an approved author this year. So that got me through a couple of hours on Thursday night to help me, for early hours of Thursday morning, help me get to sleep. So then on Thursday, I then needed to start something else. Again, ran the randomizer app, and this time it came up with The Istanbul Puzzle by Lawrence O'Brien. That's the cover on that one. Wasn't a great finish to the month. It was a book I'd started. I was about a third of the way through when I picked this one up on Thursday. It wasn't a great finish. I don't really know what to say about this one. It's a murder mystery thriller something. I don't know. The main character, Sean, one of his colleagues has been murdered in Istanbul, and he goes out there to try and find out what he was looking at. There's these photos that surface, and he's trying to find out what happened to his friend and colleague. I think the synopsis was a little bit misleading. It says about a plague that's unleashed in Istanbul, and it's not a major part of the story. It comes into it towards the end. but it doesn't really give that level of, and I don't know. I think it's just the execution. I felt, I don't know. I felt like I was rushing towards an ending, but I wasn't really engaged with it. It's a good read, but I think it could have done with a bit more formation, a bit more plotting, a bit more planning. I just felt you were just moving from one to the other, and then and towards the end of the book, you weren't getting a full explanation of where it was going, and why. So I think it's yes. I can't say I recommend it, but and I definitely probably it looks like it's a whole series of books. I think the next one's called The Jerusalem Puzzle. No, not for me, sorry. So sad end to the month, really. But I will hopefully have a better September. I've started September by picking up Full Dark No Stars by Stephen King. It's one of his long short story books. I've read the first book, had some nightmares about rats last night. I should have expected that. I've read Stephen King before. And I did thoroughly enjoy that. I like the fear factor in that one. I do enjoy the sense of dread and fear he brings out in me. So as I said earlier, so that's what I'm reading at the moment. As I said earlier, I'm going to finish Spellslinger this month. It came in one of my book boxes a couple of months ago, and I'm trying to read them all in order, and this was only the second one I received, and I've had 5 boxes. I've got some catching up to do. Because I really want to read the one that came in this past month's box, which I put the video up last week, and the months before. And I want to get to it because I've got a feeling that September's I'm going to be really intrigued by, and October's as well. They've just released October's theme, so I need to catch up. Also, in July, I read First Grave on the Right by Dorinda Jones. I love that so much that I immediately went onto my library app and ordered Second Grave on the Left. So I've got that one now. I need to get on and finish that one because I need to take it back. It was due back yesterday. I think I'm going to be charged a fine because I've not renewed it on time, but it is now renewed. I'm only going to get a 20p fine, don't worry. So yes, so that's my TBR for September at the moment. My ongoing plan is to, other than maybe continuing with the Dorinda Jones series and the books I get from my book box club, I am going to now just, apart from maybe Harry Potter 7, I'm just going to stick to the books that are on my 2017 TBR. I need to get through those. I've got about 30 left. I have DNF'd some, but I think that's for another video. And yeah, so that's where I am. I hope you all had an excellent reading month in August, and I wish you an excellent reading month in September. And I will speak to you all soon. Goodbye.